OTAN, Outreach and Technical Assistance Network.
My name's Dana Thompson. I'm going to be your webinar facilitator today, host, whatever we call them now. All right. So I've been using, thank you. I've been using Canvas for a long time now, well over 10 years. And the ability to be able to take your content from either one semester or 1 year and repurpose it for the next time that you're teaching that course is really, really helpful. And so we're going to talk about some best practices in doing that today, and then some of the easiest ways to get content moved over. So one of the things that I'd really, and I know that was my email ding. Hopefully it's not going to become annoying. Let me know if it does. But when we're updating content in Canvas, one of the things that we really need to take into consideration is that our Canvas shell is documentation for our students as well as for our accrediting organizations. So when you're using Canvas to deliver content, and you are going to be delivering that same content to a new set of students or another year, you don't want to make the changes in the original course, because then you're changing your documentation after the course is done, and that can negatively impact, if a student, because most organizations allow their students, even though the course isn't active, the students can still log in and access the resources and their and assignments and instructor feedback. And if you start changing that, then it doesn't jive with what they thought. It will kind of break that assignment feedback or documentation. And then with our accrediting organizations, we want to make sure that what we're reporting to them is accurate and true. So if you go in and modify an old course so that you can teach it to your new students, that actually breaks that documentation trail as well. So the biggest thing that you can remember when you're using content in Canvas and you're repurposing it for a new shell or a new course or new students, you want to copy that information over first and then make all of your changes in the new shell rather than changing the old content. You want to keep that as intact as possible. So I'm going to jump over here into a Canvas course, and you can see that this is an Intro to Culinary Arts course, and this is a demo, so it's not complete. You probably have way more content in yours, but you can see that I've got several modules. One where this might be a module that I will use for all my courses because it's an introduction for students in using Canvas. And so the beauty is I can create this once, and then I can use that module in every course that I teach, even if it's not the same content that's in this course. And then specific to this course, I have my week 1 module and assignments and all of that. And I have my week 2 module. So this course is built on weeks and so on and so forth. Now, again, it's a demo course. So I only have 3 weeks in here, but you can see down here now, I also have a training resources module that is not published, because these are things that I have found I would use when creating content or activities for my students, and course checklists to make sure that I have everything that I need, as I'm going through. And so I want this accessible to me, but not my students. So I brought it into my Canvas course and I've unpublished the module so my students can't see it, but I still have access to this. And I can copy this over to any course that I want because it's not course specific. And then I also have some module templates that I've created that if I wanted to create a whole group rotation module, I don't have to recreate that every time because I have this template where these are activities on a page. So I'll have my teacher-led learning, and maybe this is where I'm going to be doing direct instruction. But for my students who are absent, I want them to be able to get that content. And whether it's a YouTube video that has the same content, or I create an instructional video in Studio or in YouTube and upload it, I have that here. And then I curate some online learning activities. And then there's a collaborative offline activity where they are not plugged in. So, but instead of creating this structure every single time I want to use it, I create the module once as a template, and then I copy that entire module, and then I'll plug in the things for that activity. If you have an assignment in an unpublished module with a due date, it does still appear on the students' calendars, but it's going to be very confusing for them, because if you're using modules to deliver your content to your students and you have an assignment that's published with a due date, they can't access it unless it's in a module. So they'll see this on their calendar, they'll see it in their grades view, but when they try to open up the assignment to work on it, more times than not, it will tell them that they don't have access to that. And it counts towards their final grade, depending on how it's set up, and they don't have access to it. So if you have an assignment that is not in a module, don't publish it. Then it won't show on their calendar and it won't show in their grades view. So that is a good point, in that if I were going to use this module or this course to copy over for my new upcoming semester, everything in here is published because the students are working on this right now. And again, I am not going to unpublish anything, because then that will confuse my current students. So if I wanted to use this but not have it be published yet in my new course, I would copy everything over first, and then in the new course go in and unpublish it, because it usually copies over in the status that it is in the original course. Awesome. Okay, so you can see that down here I do have, and so your question goes to that. Here's a assignment that's in a module that is not published, but the assignment is published. Students will see that, but not be able to access it. So in this case, yes, I would probably unpublish that. Again, this is a demo course, so I don't have students in here, but yes, you're right. But so I've got several templates set up that I can use. Now, one of the things that you can consider is, if this is a course where you're going to be using all of these types of activities, these blended learning models, then go ahead and bring in those templates. But you don't have to bring everything into your course, because then it gets overwhelming sometimes. So one of the really great features of Canvas, if I come back out here to my dashboard, you probably have what's called a sandbox course. So down here is my sandbox course. And in the sandbox course, what a sandbox means is it's a course where you can play and create things. And it's not going to, students are not in your sandbox course, so it will never confuse them. So even if you have a current course that you're working on in a current semester, and you want to add something, many times, in order to make sure that it works first before confusing students, I suggest creating it in your sandbox course. Once you've got it all done, then copying it over in the finished version into the current course that you are working in and that your students are working in. So the sandbox course is a great feature, because you can just play. And you'll see in here, in my sandbox course, I have a lot of things in here, and it's not course specific. I'm going to collapse my modules. So I do have my week 1, week 2, and week 3 that were in my Intro to Culinary Arts course, but I also have a module on creative effective discussions and what's the favorite ed tech tool. I have all of these different modules that I'm creating, I'm building, I'm playing. And then once I've got it to where I want it for my students, then I'll copy that over. And I find that to be very helpful, because then you're not afraid of doing something that's going to accidentally get published and your students are going to see it and then confuse them. They don't see it until it's in its final version. So having that sandbox course is a big help. But coming back out here to my dashboard, so here's the course that I'm working in currently. You know, I'm teaching Intro to Culinary Arts say in the fall semester, and I'm going to have a new course for semester 2, but it's going to be a new set of students. And so I want to use 99% maybe of the content that I already created last semester. I'm going to repurpose that in my updating culinary arts course. Now, this course is not published, so even if students are enrolled in it, they will not see this course until I actually click this publish button, and then they will see the items that I have published inside of the course. They will be able to see and have access to. Okay, so when I come into my culinary arts for my semester 2, this is a course that was created using a template from my organization. So it has some items in it that I can choose to use or not. Your organization may not have a template for new courses, and so it would be completely empty. But my organization, they've created a template for my welcome page so that it's easy for me to come in and update my page. If I come over here on this new course that I've done nothing to yet, you can see that I do have some template modules in here that I can choose to use or not. Since I already have a lot of this stuff in my current course that I'm going to now repurpose into this new course, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit so that it doesn't confuse me. So I'm going to come over here and delete these modules because I've already done the work in the other course and I don't need them again. And again, you might have a course that is created for you that is completely empty and you don't need to do these steps. But organizations do have the ability to create templates for new courses, in which case you might have items in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete. The nice thing about working from modules is it deletes it from the modules, but it's not necessarily deleting it from my course. So if I want to use it again, I can find those in either my pages index page, my assignments index page. So I'm just removing it from the main area that I'm going to control my students' access. And I want to start with everything clean. So now I have nothing in my modules. And if I come down here to look at my individual pages, you can see that it has a home page that was brought over with the template. And I can leave that, or I can say, nope, I'm going to make my own home page. So when I come into edit, nope, it's not in edit. It's going to be in my pages list. So I'm going to go back and click on pages again because I want to see all my pages. So you can see all of the pages that I just deleted from my modules still live in my course. So I can use them again if I want to. But I'm going to go ahead and I might not be able to do this. I'm going to remove this as a front page. So now I don't have a front page. And I did that on purpose so that I can create my custom homepage for my new course. Any questions so far? If your organization doesn't have a template set up for new courses, this is most likely what you're going to see when you get into your Canvas shell. Nothing, right? And no modules, nothing like that. So when I'm looking at this empty course, and what I want to do is pull in content from the course that I'm currently teaching, I'm going to pull that content in first, and then I'm going to modify it so that it has updated due dates and things that, maybe I want to modify some of the assignments. Any changes that I want to do, I will do in this new course after I've brought that content in. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind. If you want to bring in the entire course, it's a carbon copy, you're gonna teach 99% of the same stuff, and you're just gonna bring it all in at once. The easiest way to do that is to come over here and import existing content. And you can see this is the template that was brought in by my Canvas admin when this course was created that I removed, right? But so now I'm going to go and I'm going to select a Canvas course that I have access to. So the one that I'm teaching this semester. And then I'm going to do the course name. Now, this is my culinary arts, and it's like a search engine. So it's going to search for any course that I have access to that has the word or has the title culinary arts. And you can see I have different sections from different times that or different semesters that I've taught it. This culinary arts semester 2 is the new one that I'm currently in right now. So I'm not going to pull in this course because there's nothing in it that I need. But this one up here is going to be the one that I'm going to pull the content in. So your naming convention really does matter. So maybe putting a year on the end, and if you're creating your own Canvas courses, it's not connected to like a student information system, really think about your naming convention so that it's easy to find it. Because this, if I didn't really know, or if I had a lot more, it would be confusing to know which one I wanted to pull in. So what I'm going to do, actually, before I do this, is double check that I have the right one. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard. This is the one that I want to pull in. And here's a trick. I love this trick. So I'm going to click on this course, and you can see up here, it has a URL, and this number right here, sometimes it's 3 numbers, sometimes it's 4 numbers, sometimes it's 6 numbers, but this is your unique course ID. So I can actually search for the course that I want, and to ensure that I get the right content from the correct course, I'm going to search by this unique ID instead of the name, because I had so many that I was teaching that was intro to culinary. And if I pulled in the wrong one, it might not be the content that I want. So I'm going to remember the number 548. That's my unique ID for the course that I want to copy. So I'm going to come back to my dashboard. I'm going to go back into my semester 2 unpublished shell. And I'm going to come back here to import existing content. And I'm still going to search for that Canvas course that I'm a teacher in. But instead of the course name, and now I've already forgotten the number, 548, there it is. So now it's only giving me the course that has that unique ID, and I don't have to try and figure out if it's the right course or the wrong course. So remember that. So when I choose that, and you can see up here, 871 is the number for this new course. So that's the unique ID for this new course. So I'm going to pull in the content from the old course. I have options. I can either pull in everything, right? I want everything to come in because I'm just going to carbon copy it, update the due dates, and I'm good to go. So you would just pull in everything, and that will also pull in your course settings, your syllabus, if you're using your syllabus, any of your modules, assignments, quizzes, and your quiz banks or question banks. So all of these items will be pulled in. Or if you know you want to use most of the content, but maybe not all of it, you can select specific content. At this point, you would have to go through the next few steps to get to the point where you can pull in the specific content. So I'm going to show you how to do that. But if you pull in all content, it's just going to pull in everything. This is also really important. If you are using new quizzes, you're going to import existing quizzes as new quizzes. This will also import classic quizzes and convert them in the import into a new quiz. So if you're someone who is using classic quizzes and you want those to automatically convert over to a new quiz, this is a great thing to check. If you're not sure, don't check it. It'll just pull everything in the format that it's already in. And then this is one that I always do because I find that it's easier to put in new due dates rather than try and shift due dates, because then it gets very confusing. So I'm actually going to adjust my events and due dates, and I'm going to remove. So everything's going to come in with no due date, and I'll be able to go in and put in the due date that I want for the new class. If you pull it in without this date adjustment, then it pulls it in with the current due date. And if you forget to unpublish it, like Tanya said, then it can be very confusing for your students because it has a due date of before the class started. So I always use caution and remove those due dates. And Tanya, you have a question.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, so how does the due date thing connect to under content where it has all content and it says calendar events. So
Mhm.
if you had checked all content, which includes calendar events, how would that impact your, like the adjust events and due dates? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, so
Clearly, you
the
can tell I've had a lot of trouble with this part.
yeah, so the due dates they are calendar events, but they're controlled through the assignment settings or the discussion settings or the quiz settings. Those will, if you pull in all content and adjust events and due dates and remove dates, it will remove all of those dates. Now, if you put in there, back to school night or CTE conference or something that is not tied to an assignment or a discussion or a quiz, it's just a calendar event. I believe it will pull that in as a calendar event on the current date. So it would be prior to this course happening. That's actually a new feature. So it may, if you remove all due dates, it may even remove those calendar events.
Okay,
But I know
thank you.
with anything that has a due date, it keeps the item, but it removes the due date.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to select specific content so that you can see this process. If I had selected all content, I would click on import and it would do its thing. But since I have selected specific content, and this is also very important, if you, I know I've had teachers before where they have their content, they copy it over to their class, they make their changes, and then they realize that they forgot something or they need or something didn't transfer right, so they try transferring it again. And they do all content every time. Just remember that if you import the same course content more than once, it's going to overwrite anything that you've made changes to. So after we do this, I'm going to show another way to copy content, but keep that in mind. It's just like doing a save, and it's going to overwrite anything that was there before. But I'm going to select specific content. So when I click on import, now I have the ability to come in and say, what do I want to import? And so I do want to import my course settings. I do want to import my syllabus, but I don't want to import all of those modules because for this course, I just want my overview, my week 1, my week 2, and my week 3. Because I have these things in my sandbox, I don't want them in this course also until I'm ready to use them. So I'm not going to import all of these other modules. I'm just going to import these first 4 modules for my students. Now, if an assignment is in one of these modules that I'm importing, it's going to import as well. So I don't need to worry about assignments, quizzes, or question banks because it will automatically import if it lies within this module that I'm importing. So I can come in here and do specific ones if I wanted to, but I don't have to. But say I do want to pull in every rubric, even if it's not attached to an assignment, and I want to pull in all my learning outcomes because I don't want to have to go in there and do them all again. So I'm going to pull in those as well. So it's really easy to customize here what you want to pull in if you already know what you want to use. If you're not sure and you just want to be able to do that as you're working through it, just pull in all your content. You can remove things that you don't need. And so I'm going to select content, and you can see that it's queued. And it usually takes a minute for it to copy over. And then it's going to let me know if it's successful or if I have any issues. Now, issues are common, so don't get nervous or anxious if you see that you have warnings or issues, because if you're using, say, an API or an LTI like Google Workspace, so you are creating things in Google Docs and Google Slides, and you're using the Google tool, the Google plugin to connect things from your drive into Canvas, you're going to have to redo every single one of those in the new course, because the way Google works is it's tying it to this unique identifier. So when you copy it into another course without a unique identifier, you need to redo those. If you're using something like Studio, many times I say always go and double check your videos to make sure that they copied over correctly. So all of the Canvas native things will probably copy over seamlessly, but it's when you're starting to pull in these ed tech tools like Edpuzzle or quizzes or flashcards, online flashcards, all of those kinds of tools, you're going to want to double check those. And Canvas usually is pretty good about picking up warnings. I didn't get any warnings, so it shows that all of my content in imported correctly. So I'm going to come here into modules, and you'll see I now have Canvas overview and resources. I have my week 1 ready to go, but no due dates. I don't have any due dates, but because in my original course, I had set up all of my prerequisites and requirements for the module, I don't have to do those again either. So it really saves you time. And then here on week 2, that got imported correctly, and week 3 was imported correctly, but then nothing else. So it only imported what I told it to. So that is the import content. Now, if you have, if I come back to my home screen, that's where I found that button, right? It's right here. You can also get to that area down in your settings for your course and import course content here. And it would just take you to the same place. But you can see that I've imported 2 imports. One was the template that was done when the course was created. And then this one, my current semester, that I've just imported the content that I want to use all at once. And now I can go in and start making my changes specific to this course. Any questions so far? Okay. Please do use the chat if you have questions, or grab the mic. So we stripped all of the dates, and I want to make sure that my students have due dates. Due dates are best practice because it helps your students know what's expected. It helps them plan their time and their activity, and it also helps communicate and document so that if there's any kind of questioning later, you can always say, well, the assignment had a due date. If you didn't see it, it's probably because you weren't in there. So you want to make sure that, and due dates are great. So if I come in here to the assignment, this individual assignment, the students are to, after working through the module, they're to create a kitchen safety plan. So right now it shows that it's due for everyone, but there's not a due date. And so the students will see it in their module list. They'll see it in their grades list. If I view this as a student, you can see it's unavailable because I haven't completed the prerequisites for it above, which is another module control that I'll show you. But you can see here in the grades that I can see it. Here's that individual safety plan, but I don't know when it's due. It's not the first thing in the list, so I don't know if it's due now or if it's due later. There's just a lot of vagueness there. So we want to give our students the most information to be successful that we can. So I'm going to come back to my modules and go back to that assignment. And we're going to go ahead and you can do this one by one, which is kind of a pain. I can come in here and click on edit. I can scroll down to my assign to and give it a due date here and do that one by one. But if you're bringing in a lot of content, this takes a lot of time, right? So there's other ways that you can do mass due date assignments. I'm just going to put a due date here for those of you. So say class, the semester starts, we're going to say the semester starts on the 20th. And so this is their first assignment that I want them to do. We're going to spend this week talking about kitchen safety. So I'm going to have this assignment due on Wednesday the following week. And I'm going to give them until midnight to turn that in before it is marked as late. But if I want to control even further when they see it and when they can turn it into before it becomes locked, I can control those with the available from and available until dates. But if I just want them to know that this is due on the 29th, and as long as you've done the prerequisite ahead of it, you can access it, you can turn it in early. I'm not going to control it even further. The only thing you need is the due date. so that when I click on save, this now has a due date listed so that students can see. And if I come in here to my module view as a student, you can see that even though I don't have access to it yet because I haven't done the prerequisites, I at least can see when it's due. And when I come into my grades as a student, it's now up here at the top, because once you put in due dates, it will list your students' assignments in order of due date. Or as a student, I can change it to assignment groups, module or a name, but the default is to list it by the due date. So now they can budget their time better. And as a student, if I come home and I go to my course calendar, I can now see that I have an assignment due on the 29th. So just by putting that due date in one place, it's showing up in several places. And if I go back into the course and come home, you can see it's also on my to-do list as an upcoming assignment due on January 29th. So that due date is one of the things that I highly recommend you put on your assignments. You can also put them on discussions and on quizzes. Very, very helpful for our students. Okay, but we have, say, 10 modules, and each module has at least one assignment, if not 2 or 3. And we stripped all of the due dates off. How can we go in now and do a mass assignment date set so you don't have to do one at a time? There's a couple of ways to do this. And one of the ways is by actually going into the course calendar. So I'm going to go over here into the course calendar. And you can see I have a bunch of calendars because I've got my personal one and then I have all of my courses. But the culinary arts course, because I clicked on that link via the course calendar, it's only showing me my culinary arts course. And here's that assignment here. But where are all the others, right? So all the others are undated. So I can come in here and here are all the things that I now have to give assignment due dates to. So I can do it here by dragging and dropping. So the individual assignment kitchen safety plan was first. And then I also want them to take a quiz. So I'm going to click, not double click, sorry, click, drag, and they're going to take that on the 31st. And now it has put that due date every place that the students can see that due date. So I can come in here in this undated list and just start giving due dates. So week 2 will be in February. So I'm going to come over here to February. And the individual science, let's see, and this is again why it's naming conventions are important. So I can just continue to drag and drop everything until I have where I want it. But it, that can be kind of time consuming as well, but it's way less than clicking inside every assignment, every discussion, and every quiz and manually putting in the due dates. So that's one way to do it. So again, I came into the course calendar, made sure that it's the only course that I see. Everything else is hidden. And I dropped down the undated so that I could see everything that still needs a date. And not everything has to have a date. Like this one is a template. So I'm not going to give that one a due date. I'm also not going to publish it. But that's just going to help me if I want to create a new assignment. It already has a lot of the formatting in there, so I don't have to worry about it. Same with this quiz. It's a template. So those I wouldn't drag onto the calendar. Okay. I am going, and you can set your course color. Again, that's a user preference. So your students can do this and choose a different color than you do as well. I'm going to come back into my course and show you a third way. So I'm going to come down here to my assignments link. And notice this is hidden from my students because I want them to see their assignments in the module view because it puts it in the order that I want them to see that assignment. I don't want them to see the assignments index page because it doesn't organize it for the students the way I want them to see it. And it doesn't show any of the content that they need before it. You can also see that everything was brought into the assignment group imported assignments because I imported it from another course. So if you have course assignment categories, this is where you would set them up. So you can set assignment categories are the same thing as assignment groups. So maybe I'll have homework, formative assessments, whatever. I can set those groups up and then again, drag and drop, and it will automatically update that in the students' grades and in your grade book. But what we're looking at is now putting on due dates to all of these other assignments that we want the students to complete without having to do it one at a time. So in my assignments link, I'm going to come over to my 3 dots, which always means more, and I'm going to edit assignment dates. This is fairly new. It's only a couple of years old. It used to be that you had to do it from the calendar or one at a time, like I showed you. But here you can see I have all of my assignments, not necessarily in the order that the students need to complete them, but hopefully I have my planning calendar here and I can say when I want them. So let's see, we're going to do this group discussion week 1 in kitchen safety. That's also going to be due on the 31st with the quiz. And then the individual assignment, that's part of my week 2. So we're going to go ahead and choose week 2, which will be February 7th. Nope, I want my assignments on Wednesday. So I'm going to change that to the 5th. And then the culinary techniques exploration. This is kind of an intro. So I'm going to have that due February 5th also. And then I have the knife knowledge quiz, which will be due that Friday, February 7th. So I can come in here and plug these dates in and do it so I'm following my pacing guide. And you can also put in your available from and available to times. And you can also, like if I wanted this group discussion, so you can like check a lot of them and put the date in here, I think. Let's see what happens. Nope. Yep. Let's see. Did it? February 4th? No, it didn't. This is when you want to, if you have like 100 assignments in here, you can select your dates by arrange and shift them. But this is an individual edit. And you can see that I have 3 assignments selected. I'm going to batch edit those and I'm going to shift them by 3 days because I am in Southern California and my school district was closed last week for 3 days. And so now as a teacher, I want to give my students 3 extra days. And instead of going in and individually changing the dates for each assignment, I can select those 3 assignments and I can shift it by 3 dates, or I can remove days. So this is another really great way to batch edit those. So you can see it landed on a Saturday, so I might want to rethink that. But now those 3 were shifted by 3 days with 1 click instead of 10 clicks. So again, I selected the ones. So I can either select all of them or select none of them. And then once you have them selected, batch edit. So we're going to just put in some due dates so that you can see. We're going to do a discussion, menu planning. That's going to be week 3. So we'll do a discussion on the 10th. This is a template, so I'm not going to put a due date on it. Kitchen safety plan presentation. Their plan was due the 31st. So I'm going to have them present in class on the 3rd. And then the history of culinary arts, that's in week 3. So we'll have the quiz due on the 14th. And now I click save. Taking just a minute. And now when I come back into modules, you can see that this one's due. Here are the due dates for those. This quiz has a due date. The group discussion and the individual assignment has a due date. This quiz has a due date. And so now with that edit assignment screen, I was able to plug in all of my due dates very quickly. Any other, so Tanya, I didn't see this in time. Which tip was worth the price of admission?
The one where you showed the math due dates and going to the calendar and
Yeah,
selecting the undated and the drag and drop. Oh
yeah.
my God, that is amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome. That was my favorite tool until they did the batch edit. Then I was like, oh, now I think I have two favorite tools.
I think I'll be playing with that one as well. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So that is really, helpful when because when you're recreating content, the dates aren't going to be the same, right? So you want to make sure that you have appropriate due dates for your students. The other thing that I want to make sure that, well, here, this is, so now I have let me collapse my module so that we can see. We have our overview, week 1, week 2, and week 3. Maybe this is going to be good enough to get my students in here and started, and I can start working in my sandbox on week 4, week 5, week 6. And I can go through those same steps to import content and select the specific content to be weeks 4, 5, and 6. Or what I can do, I can come back out to my dashboard and come back into either my sandbox or the current course that has those new modules. I hadn't created them in my old course yet, so I'm going to come into my sandbox. And so say I'm in my sandbox and I'm developing a new module. So here's the learning module. Again, this is a module that has the framework. I don't have any content on these pages yet, but this is how I want my module to look. Instead of going in and copying every single item individually, I can copy this entire module. So 3 dots, and I'm going to, you can't copy if there's quizzes in there for whatever reason. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that quiz, because I can always plug it in individually itself. But now when I go into this learning module, I can duplicate this learning module, and it will duplicate everything in it. And then, so remember, I'm in my sandbox. I'm not doing this in one that has students in it, or if you do it in one that has students in it, just make sure that when you go to duplicate, everything is unpublished. Otherwise, the students will see it. But now I can come in here and click on edit. This is going to be my week 3, and this is going to be the history of Italian cuisine or something like that, right? So, and then I can save that, and then I can come in here and do the same. Again, there's no content on these, but I am going to create the content. So this is not module 1. This is week 4. Did I put week 3? It should be week 4. I'll change it. And then this is going to be my overview and to-do list. And I'm just going to remove the word copy. And so I can go through and edit this to get it, to create this module, plug in my content, bring in so here's a presentation. Maybe I want to bring in a video, or I have a instructional video that I've already created myself, or whatever the case may be. I'm going to go ahead and bring in all of those items, those content, and have the assignment that they're going to do, those kinds of things. And then once this module is ready to go, I can just simply copy this whole module over to my new course. This is also where that 3-digit number really, really helps. Okay. So I'm going to leave this open and duplicate my tab so that I don't lose this, because I want to come back here, because I'm going to copy over this completed module. You're going to pretend it's completed. But I need to find out what the number is of my new course, my semester 2, because I've already forgotten it and I didn't write it down. So my semester 2 is 871. Okay. So that's what I'm going to use to make sure that it's going in the right place. So I'm going to come back into my sandbox. I'm going to go over here to the 3 dots for my module up for week 4. And I'm going to copy the entire module, everything that's in it, to my 851 course. Nope, see, that's wrong. I already forgot it. 871. Okay. So 871 That's the correct course. So now it's going to take this whole module out of my sandbox, and it's going to copy everything over to my new semester 2 course for me. So I'm going to come back over here. It takes a minute. I'm not very patient when it comes to things like this, but yeah, so I just have to wait for a little bit, make sure it does its magic, refresh my view, and there's my week 4 with everything that's in it. And if you're teaching 2 or 3 sections, you create it once in your sandbox and you copy it over to every section and then go in and adjust the due dates accordingly for each section, depending on when they meet. But you're doing the work once so that you don't have to do it individually in every class. And so now I have week 4 in here. Now, remember, I didn't have that quiz, right? And I do want a quiz in this module. So what I'm going to do is come into my quizzes, and I'm going to find the quiz that I wanted, which was this quiz right here. Where's the copy? Nope, I didn't copy. So this is the quiz that I want. So I'm going to just copy this quiz into 871. And because it sees that there's more than one module in there, I can even say, put it right in my week 4 module. And you're going to put it after the individual assignment. And then I'm going to copy that quiz over. And then I'll come back here, refresh, and there's that quiz right there. So Dawn, when you create available from, should you do an until time or can you leave it blank? So that's a great question. And here, is there anyone in here, and you can either throw it in the chat or raise your hand or put the thumbs up, anyone in here who connects to a student information system? And what that means is that your student information system is creating your courses in Canvas, and you can pass back the grades from Canvas into your student information system. I know most adult schools don't have that set up. So you're going into Canvas and you're doing the grades in here and everything is in here. And then you might, if you have to do like a report card or something, you will go back and put that into the other system yourself. And that matters because if you are using a student information system and you have a due date, that due date puts it into, say, quarter 1 or quarter 2 or trimester 1 or trimester 2. So if you have a semester class that is broken up into quarter 1 and quarter 2, and you don't have a due date, it will always put it at the very end. And so that has caused some hiccups for teachers who are trying to get the assignment to count towards the first quarter grade and not the second quarter grade. And the simple fix is to put a due date on. With the available date, if you do an available date from, because you don't want them to have access to that assignment until tomorrow, and you don't want them to see the content before tomorrow, if you don't put a until date in there, it will leave it open for the entire semester. So they still have access to it and to turn it in until the very last day of the semester. If you want to make it so that they can't turn it in after February 3rd, you put that until time on there. When they go to try and turn it in on the 4th, it will tell them that they don't have access to turn it in. The due date, though, we'll put it in, if you have grading period set up, we'll put it in a specific grading period. So that one is, again, really important. Any other questions before I show you one of my other favorite tools? Okay. Coming down here to my course settings, one of the things you want to do, regardless of whether you're copying content over or you're importing content from the Commons or anything, even content that you're building, Before and even throughout the semester, I do this, occasionally, you want to validate your links. So there are so many times where a student will go to do an assignment and it says to go watch this YouTube video or read this blog article. And because it's not content that we created or maintain, if that person takes down that YouTube video or blocks access to the blog, the students will click on the link and it will take them to page not found, or you don't have access or something, and they can't do the assignment or they can't read the resource. And it's, again, time consuming to go through every page to make sure that all of your links work. So Canvas does the link validator, which will do that for you. So if I click on Start Link Validator, it's going to go into everything that I have in this course and check if it's a link, because it's looking at the code, the back end. And if it's a link, it's going to test to see if it can find what's at the other end. And look at that. I have no broken links, which means that I can be very comfortable in knowing that my students have access to everything I want them to have access to. If you do have links that are broken, it will list them here so that you can click on that Canvas page and be taken directly to it where you can fix the link. So again, it's saving you time from having to go through your modules and check every page, every quiz, every assignment, every discussion to make sure that your links work. Canvas will do that for you. So I do, especially if I'm copying something over from previous years, I will do the link validator, because many times it's, somebody puts up a resource that's a great resource, I link to it, it works for that semester, but then they take it down or they put it behind a paywall, and next semester my students can't access it, and I don't find out until they tell me, oh, I couldn't do my homework because I didn't have access to that. So that is down here in settings. So it's the settings for your course. And then it's one of the options in your course status list, validate links in content. And you can run this as many times as you want, and it will let you know if you have any broken links. Also know that if you have like a page in Canvas and you're linking directly to the assignment you want them to do, instead of using the previous and next buttons in the module, that's considered a link. So if you have the page linking to the assignment, but the assignment is not published, then it's going to say that it's a broken link because it can't access that assignment page because it's not published. It's looking at it from the student perspective. So just keep in mind that as well. So again, that's settings and link, validate links. Now, one of your cautions, and you'll notice that in the beginning of this, the course, I physically removed the template that had been put in there when the course was created. And people ask me, well, why didn't you just come in here and reset course content? Don't reset course content, especially if your course is linked to, say, your organization website, so that your students can get in there, because resetting the course content basically resets everything, including this unique number. And so if you're linking to a course and you reset the course content, that link is now broken because it's actually just creating a brand new course with nothing in it. So that's why I deleted all of the content I didn't want to use instead of resetting the course content. So stay away from this one. If you are working in two different Canvas organizations, so you teach, Monday, Wednesday in this district and they have this Canvas, and then Tuesday, Thursday, you teach in another district and they have a different instance of Canvas. The beauty is you can create your items in one place, and then you can export your course content into a downloadable executable file, then go to your other Canvas shell and upload it. So you still don't have to double dip, or not double dip, you don't have to do double duty. If you're teaching in different places and you use different canvases, you can't copy because it's a totally different website, but you can export. So if this was all done and I teach this class in a different Canvas, I can export the entire course, and it'll take a minute. And then when I'm ready to import it into my other Canvas website, my other Canvas instance, that's when you would go into the course. So this is going to process it, and then it's going to download it to my downloads folder. Actually, it's not going to put it in the downloads folder. I have to click on this new export link. And now you can see it downloaded it to my folder, right? So then I'm going to come out here to my dashboard, and we're going to pretend that I'm, going into my culinary arts. We're going to pretend this is empty, right? But I'm going to go ahead and import content. It's existing content from another Canvas course. And instead of copying a Canvas course, I'm going to go ahead and choose that export package, and then look for that export that was downloaded to my downloads folder. So Canvas export package, and then I would go ahead and choose the file, and there it is right there. That's the one that I just exported. And then the rest of the steps are all the same. I can choose whether it's all the content, specific content, adjust the due dates, all of that. But you create it in one instance of Canvas, and then you use it in your other instance as well. Notice I've got more jobs down here. This is the module that I copied over, and this is the quiz that I copied over. So it keeps track of all of that. You can always see what was imported here. And then you can always import from Commons as well if you're using the Canvas Commons. Now, because I had not chosen my home page, now that I have everything in here, I can come in here and choose my course homepage, and I want it to be from my pages. This is all grayed out because I haven't indicated what I want my front page to be. It needs to have that tag. So I'm going to click on this link. It will take me here, and I'm going to have this one be my home page. It has to be published if it's your home page, and I'm going to go ahead and flag that as my front page with the 3 dots. Now, when I come home and tell Canvas that instead of modules as my home page, now I have the ability to link to that page that I flagged. And so now this is my home page. So I just go in and update this a little bit. And so I have my content from last semester. I've imported it into my new Canvas shell for this semester. I did some edits in my sandbox and brought those in. Redirect, or the validate links tool, really, really important. Okay, thank you. And then just making sure that you adjust those due dates and you have everything in your modules set up the way you want. And it is really easy to repurpose content. Any questions? Anything you need me to show again? Yes, go ahead, Tanya.
So I'm trying to sort of answer my own question. I think it boils down to not being as organized as you are. So I tend to teach the same course. I teach a community college course, and I tend to teach the same course each semester. So what I've been doing, but at the end of the semester, I decide, oh, that sucked. I don't want to use that or this
Right.
or whatever. So the way I've been importing is going to the old course, and then finding it under courses, and then I will import sort of module by module, right? So like, yeah. I know module 1 or week 1, whatever, and then I will import that. And then once it gets into the new course, I'll delete, I'll decide whatever I don't want in there. Or I might from the old course just import 3 or 4 items, discussion boards, whatever. And so I'm trying to figure out what's the easiest way to not have to do that, and maybe it's because I do have a sandbox for that school. Is it, to put everything in the sandbox and clean it up? Because I often have to do a lot of cleaning up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
right.
things are just, not quite right, which is why I have this fear of the due dates and the calendar and all of that. I end up inevitably, missing something. So I'm trying to figure out like what to do to make it easier, or if what you just shared today is a reason for me to stop doing that. Because by and large, it's working, by and
Yeah,
large, all of the, the way my homepage looks and everything that's on there is now in the new course. And I spent a lot of
right,
time making that, pretty. And
right.
so, but I could still do that this way as well. So I'm trying to, from a teacherly standpoint, figure out how to do that. But also at the adult school that I'm at, I'm the Canvas lead. So try to help them help do things better. And maybe that's creating more templates. So I hope that
Right.
made sense.
It does make sense. And to be honest with you, it really is your workflow. But here's how I would approach it. I would look at the previous semester and say, am I going to use 80% of that content again?
And I am.
Yes.
Mhm, mhm.
Import the whole course. And before you start doing anything, so say I've imported this whole course, I'm actually, let me collapse all and then expand all. The great thing that Canvas has done is I can now come to week 1 and I can unpublish the module and all of the items. Now, as long as students haven't participated yet, it will unpublish everything. So what I would do, you don't want to unpublish it in the original course because you want your students to still see that. But I would come in and I would import the entire course and then I would unpublish all of my modules, because now what you can do is come in here and customize for your new students, but not have to remember, did I copy that over? Did I not? It's here. And because you're using more than you're not, just then you pull out what you're not using, but what you are using is already there and you can do your tweaking and then publishing so that your students can see it. So that's how I would do it.
That sounds great. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
If it's a brand new course, do it in your sandbox. But if it's something that you're already using and is pretty there, you're just going to modify it for your current students, just bring in the whole course.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions? That was a great question. And that's also another new feature. It used to be, it was either publish or unpublish, but now you have options and it's a huge lifesaver. Excellent. Well, next session will be a working session. We're going to take 2 sessions to kind of create and build. So take a look at the link in the description and hope to see you there. And have fun building content in Canvas. Thank you for coming today. I appreciate your time.